we're going to be doing some standard form and some just regular old graphing type stuff. So remember, if it's in standard form, okay, if I don't have it in a vertex form where I can see the vertex right away, I got to calculate it. We've been doing this for a couple of days now. To find my vertex, oops, let me do this. To find the x value, I'm going to do negative b over 2a. So when I'm doing that, of course, I need to know what my a and what my b values are. And this is going to be the only part where I got to do calculating. So we'll keep life pretty simple that way. So remember, negative's part of the formula. So it's negative 1. Oops, negative 2, Harty. You got to take down the b value here. Over 2 times a. So all this sign stuff, got to watch it. The opposite of negative 2 is 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then I just divide that, okay? I get my x value for my vertex that way. But I remember, hey, a vertex isn't just an x value. It's x and y. So to get the y, I got one more step I got to do. Then I could do the rest pretty straightforward. To get y, I'm going to plug that x value I just found into these spots. So that negative's there, I got to keep it. And then I'll do my negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. Now that's something, especially with all those negatives, I'm probably going to let this help me out. So let's see, I got negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 3, which is 4. So y equals 4. So my vertex is at negative 1, positive 4. So I'll go ahead, I'll get that point in. Now here's my question for you. Do you think my parabola is going to open up or down? Down. Why down? He goes, lucky guess. My a is negative, okay? So remember, I can do this one of two ways. I can use the calculator, but remember, I can just do the pattern. The pattern is go over 1. In this case, down 1 because it's negative. Over 1, down 1. Over 1, down 3. Over 1, down 3. Now, if I don't remember the pattern, and you've had it in the notes a couple of different times, so you'd even have it there if you needed it. If you don't remember, we always have the calculator as a backup plan. So I could just type it in and use the table, and I see at 0, my point's at 3, just like I have here. At negative 2, my point's at 3, just like it is here. At 1, my value is 0, okay? So I still can use the calculator as my backup plan if I need it. But otherwise, I can just use that pattern that we've talked about before. I don't even need the calculator at all for anything. That's a pretty good deal. So when I'm doing these, and we'll do one more of these, I'm going to jump around a little, and then we can come back. Again, my big key with all of these is to say, okay, so my a value is 1, my b value is 6, and I just use that little mini formula to get me going. So x is going to be negative b over 2 times a. So let's see. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 3, so that's my x. And then just like we did before, to get my y, I'm just going to plug that negative 3 in where these are at. Now again, I always want to use parentheses, even if it's a positive number, because it just gets me into a good habit so I don't get myself into trouble here by getting a sign mix-up. So notice I just showed it in red, plugged in my negative 3 where my x's were at, and if you want to use the calculator at this point to do the actual grunt work for us, that's okay. Make sure those parentheses are there, though. That can cause issues otherwise. Okay. That's the biggest amount of work I should have to do on any of these. So once I calculate that, I got my vertex, got my center point here. You think we're opening up or down this time? Where the vertex is might give me a pretty good clue. What's my A value? My A value is positive, so we're going to be opening up. So I'm like, okay, and I'll just do the pattern from here. Over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, over 1, up 3. And I'm good. Okay. So on our basic graphing, when we're in standard form, that's all I got to do. Crank out the vertex, and then just use the pattern to get my next couple of dots. Connect the dots. Nothing too shabby. Now we've also, within this time frame, we've been, flip over here. We will come back to play with some more. I'm actually going to flip to the second page for a minute. So I'm going to get over here to 9. And what we're going to do is now we're going back to our vertex form. Now this was a little bit different from what we were doing before. Because this one, I don't have to figure out what the vertex is. I know what it is already. Because my vertex is just the opposite of what I see in here, and then what's on the outside. So for instance here, my vertex is at the opposite of negative 1, so 1 and 1. Get that dot in there. The shifts, okay, because this is the one, remember, where we had our base graph and then we did some shifting. So when we're looking at these guys tell me if I'm going left or right. And these guys tell me if I'm going up or down. Okay, and we had that in the notes before too. But how can I tell? Here's how I can tell even if I don't remember the formula. If I start from 0 to get to my vertex, where did I go? I went right 1 and I went up 1. So however I get from the origin to where my new vertex is, that'll tell me where the shifts are at. It's kind of cool. You're like, well, how do I do the other part then? You know, can I type this in the calculator? Can I do the pattern like I did before? You absolutely can do the pattern. Okay, my A value would be negative 1, which just tells me I go over 1 and down 1. Over 1 and down 1. Over 1 and down 3. over 1, and down 3. And again, if you're not confident in your skills with this yet and you want to use the calculator as your backup plan, that's okay. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and yell at you and say, oh, you should know by now how to. I'm hoping we're working that way. But if we're not yet, if we're not quite there yet, I can always type it in and then use the table. So let's see, my vertex is at 1, so we'll get that in the middle. Okay, there's my points at 0, 0, and 2, 0. And my points at negative 1, negative 3, and 3, 3. I can get them from there too. Okay, so you have options. It's not a know the formula or else. And like I said, I can even get the shifts that way. So here's what I want to do. I want to do 10 with you, and then I'm going to have you do 11 or 12 on your own like we've done before, and then we're going to pop it back up and kind of see how things are going and see how this goes. So, actually I'll do that in a second. Let's just do 10 together. What's my vertex going to be on number 10? Remember, my vertex comes from these two guys. You're close. I agree with the last 4. Remember, yeah, the one in the parentheses always switches from what we think it's going to be. So 4, 4, put my dot. And again, that also tells me my shifts. To get to that vertex, I went right 4, and I went up 4. Now here's where I got to be careful though. If I go to do my graph on my own, my A value, my number in front is 2. So now I still go over 1, but now instead of going up 1, I go up 2. Go over 1 and up 2. Because remember, normally I go over 1 and up 1, and then I go over 1 and up 3, over 1 and up 5, and so on. Well, now I have to multiply those because this number isn't 1, it's 2. So that's why I went up 2 the first time. So then the next time I go over 1, instead of going up 3, I'm going to go up 6. I'm going to go twice as much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 1 and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, like before, if I'm not comfortable remembering that part, especially if there's a different number in front, no big deal. I can go ahead and type it into the calculator. And if I look at the chart, once I get myself centered up here, you're like, now what do I do to get centered up? My vertex would want to be in the middle. So I look and I say, okay, so 5, 6, there's 1 point. 3, 6, yep, there's a point. 2, 12, right there. And 6, 12. So I always have that backup there for me that's ready and raring to go. And I also noticed it was a positive A, so it opened up. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to give an attempt. Let's see, which one do we want to try? Let's go to 12. I want you to try 12 out on your own. And I'm going to pop it back up here in a second with it worked. But use those other 2 that you've done to try it. Oh, well, that happens. So once I get that vertex down, if I want to see my backup plan, because again, I want you feeling comfortable with this. Second graph, and again, as long as I have my vertex in the middle, I see points at 0, negative 2, and 2, 2. I see points at negative 1, 1, and 3, 1. So that's what I'm looking for with these. And that's the only thing I've got that I'm looking for with these. So, issues so far. Because you're like, okay, you know, find a vertex, do some shifts. I can kind of see this. Are there either of the types you'd like us to do some more of? Because you're still kind of getting a feel for it. Because we can do more vertex ones or more standard form ones like the first sheet. Just tell me what you want to do and we'll do it. Or are we good and I need to be quiet? 'Cause I'll do either. It's so quiet. Oh, let's do one more standard, just to play it safe. Oh, let's see, which one looks interesting? Let's go with the negative and the number. Let's go down to 8. Okay. So last one on standard. So what we're going to do, again, when we get over here, I've got my negative b over 2a. So I got to do a little work when it's in standard form. So I've got negative, my b value is 8, my a value is negative, so I know it's going to open down. Negative b over 2a. And this is the point that's critical, because if I mess up something with my signs or something here, it's going to mess up my y value, which is going to kind of make everything go bad on me. So my x value is 2. And then just remember, my y is just plugging it back in. Just doing a little substitution. And again, absolutely no harm. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, I don't need to type it in there. Make sure I get that typed in good. My y value ends up at negative 2. And I have my vertex. So 2, negative 2. I see it opens down by the negative. Bless you. But remember, since my a value is 2, instead of going over 1 and down 1, I'm going over 1 and down 2. Over 1 and down 2. And instead of going over 1 and down 3 for my next, I'm doing twice as much. Over 1 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 1 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If there's any doubt, we just type it in. And we can use our chart. But again, I got to get the vertex number in the middle here. Okay. So I look and I'm like, okay, so 1, negative 4, 1, negative 4, 3, negative 4, 3, negative 4, 0, negative 10, 0, negative 10, 4, negative 10, 4, negative 10. And just watch the backup that way. And you're good to go. So again, there's going to be a mini quiz coming tomorrow that just asks these same types of questions. Graph them, tell me the vertex, and in vertex form, tell me what the shifts are going to be. We're also going to end up doing a homework check of what's been going on for this week. So if you're a couple of homework checks behind, tomorrow might be a good day to be able to get caught up on some of that stuff, because the quiz won't take the whole time, then we can kind of work through some of those things. But we are going to keep moving forward toward accomplishment accomplishment and or quiet, because this